Shadow Magmar hits the field of play with a 2 to no shield advantage. This Pokemon with a very similar stat product to Pokemon such as Zapdos, Gallade and even Toxicroat. So if you're wondering what that translates into, well, this Annihilate's going to find itself straight in and straight out. Welcome back to the channel. Today we have the absolute pleasure of shoutcasting my good friend, fellow content creator and my faction's teammate LoX. Firstly, his link down below, go check him out. This battler is phenomenal and you're going to see his absolute mesmerizing energy management on display today. LoX, sticking with the theme of my channel, is running a full shadow team. And this is one that I really like. Often shadow teams do suffer from lack of bulk, however both Lapras and Serperior more than hold their own in that department. They're reasonably bulky, very oppressive and hit insanely hard. We've also got the nuke monster, Shadow Magmar. The 137 attack stat, this thing hits like a truck. Let's keep the intro short and sweet today. Without any further ado, let's get into the battle. And in game one, we see the battle of the water types, the oppressive Mudslapper Gastrodon, aka the very annoying snail, into Big Bad Lapras. LoX gonna farm up, fire off the Sparkling Aura. Sparkling Aura rocks them into the yellow health range, and with a further Psy Wave, they're already in the red. LoX gonna respect a potential Earth Power, the opponent bait with the Body Slam, and then send out Drifblim. It's kind of interesting that the opponent's still opting for Astonish on this balloon when Hex has got a buff this season. That to me suggests they're running some kind of triple fast move pressure team. LoX able to reach back-to-back Sparkling Aureas, forcing the opponent all shields down, and we send out Magmar. The opponent with an absolute bucket load of energy. LoX going to respect the Shadow Ball. A Serperior doesn't want to see this balloon. The opponent bait with the Icy Wind. Undeterred, LoX fires off one Karate Chop and the Fire Punch, even debuff rocking them into the red health range. The opponent attempts to snipe with Gastrodon. Magmar still not done, fires off the Fire Punch, removing them from the field of play. Back out comes the balloon. The balloon able to Astonish farm down, but we send out Lapras, looking to just absorb the energy, and it's all down to Serperior to clean up. Serperior hits the field of play, going to get a very nice resisted Vine Whip farm down. There's the third fast move pressure mon, but unfortunately today Wigglytuff is not your day. LoX fires off the Frenzy Plant, massive damage rocking them into the red health range. LoX able to outpace to the Aerial Ace, or Aerial Ass as the Germans like to call it, and we take that game. GG's. I called that triple fast move pressure team as soon as I saw the Astonished balloon. Heading into the next battle, we see Lapras into Magcargo. A pretty good matchup for us. Of course, our water type damage will be double super effective. The opponent throw 2 Incinerates, attempt to catch on Dusclops. LoX holds his energy and sends out the Grass Snake. Most Dusclops do run Ice Punch, as this opponent has. However, an Ice Punch does objectively less than a Stab Frenzy Plant. Dusclops insanely bulky, but Serperior hits so bloody hard, instantly rocking them into the red health range. Switch advantage, not all that important for LoX, as we have 2 things that can deal with that snail. LoX loses switch advantage and wants to send out Lapras to get even more energy. Dusclops so incredibly spammy, able to reach the part in Shadow Punch, but Lapras tanks that no problems whatsoever. Out comes Ferret. Ferret going to be greeted with the first Sparkling Aura, doing around half their health. LoX going to fire off the next one, looking to finally strip a shield away from our opponent. The opponent obliges, putting up that Protect Shield, and Magmar hits the field of play. The opponent going to be instantly debuffing us with the Rock Tomb, but LoX still with 2 shields to hide behind. More than happy to invest one here. And he's going straight for the Scorching Sands. Does the opponent respect the damage? They do not. Get that snail off my screen. Back out comes Ferret. LoX still with that shield to hide behind. Actually willing to tank the Swift, reach a Fire Punch. A Fire Punch will be forcing the opponent's final Protect Shield. LoX switch time is up. We pivot into Lapras. Lapras are very much in danger of getting farmed down. I think the opponent here should be committing to fast moves. However, they did not. Lapras able to reach the Sparkling Aura, and we're going to take a very close game. GG's. LoX clearly cut from the same cloth as myself. There's only one rule on my channel. You full send that nuke, you guarantee the Protect Shield, or you remove the Pokemon from the field of play. Heading into the next battle, we see the battle of the water types. Lapras into Greninja. Our quick move of Psy Wave is double resisted, but Lapras running Skull Bash can pick up a clean one-shot in this matchup. The opponent interestingly opting for Hydro Cannons. I believe it's a common misconception in the community that a resisted Hydro Cannon does more than a neutral Night Slash. Feel free to fact check me, that is incorrect information. A resisted Hydro Cannon and a neutral Night Slash do exactly the same amount of damage. So with that in mind, Night Slash, being the cheaper move with better DP and of course has that chance of getting a boost. Out comes Drapion, somewhat of a problematic Pokemon for our backline. Drapion forced to fire off energy to remove Lapras from the field of play, then fire off an Aqua Tail, which we respect, and out comes Dugong. Loex fires off the Scorching Sands, landing for very respectable damage. No shot. Please tell me the opponent full sent a Drill Run. Oof, that is a savage catch. Can we now fully Vine Whip farm down? Loex looking for that farm down, recognising he's unable to get it, and throws the Aerial Ace on the charge attack priority. Aerial Ace forces the first Protect Shield. Loex more than happy to tank this charge move. Icy Wind isn't quite lethal. The opponent not wanting to concede a farm down, send back out Drapion. Drapion looking for that Poison Sting farm down, unable to get it before the Aerial Ace is reached. Loex sends back out Magmar, goes straight for the Fire Punch. Fire Punch will be forcing the opponent's final protection. It's going to be a race to 2 moves. However, we're now receiving the energy for that next Fire Punch. Our monstrous attack stat means we're easily going to win CMP. Fire Punch will be moving Drapion from the field of play. We're going to Karate Chop farm down Dugong and take that game. What a catch in that mid-game. GG's. Loex always such a fun battler to shoutcast in GBL, and he's been doing very well on the Show 6 circuit as well, picking up numerous big wins for our team Shadow Claws. In the next battle we see Drapion in the lead position. Despite our sideways being resisted, this isn't a bad matchup for Lapras, as we do outbulk Drapion. The opponent fire off the Crunch, Lapras gonna overfarm before unleashing the Sparkling Aura. Sparkling Aura does force that Protect Shield. Loex happy to match Protect Shield. Lapras will win this in the 1 shield scenario, going straight Sparkling Aura when it's Shadow and Shadow Cry, because Lapras hits pretty hard, despite it being quite defense weighted. The next Sparkling Aura removes Drapion from the field of play. Out comes Cradilly. Rather than concede a farm down, we see the save switch into Serperior. As the opponent is running the Shadow variant of Cradilly, this Rock Tomb will do quite a lot of damage, but the opponent is never ever going to be able to Bullet Seed farm us down. Loex tanks the damage, fires off the correct 4 Vine Whips and the Frenzy Plant, even debuffed, rocking this Cradilly into the red health range. The opponent going to fire off the next Rock Tomb, and it looks like Loex more than content with saving his final Protect Shield for the very glassy, very attack weighted Magmar. Magmar hits the field of play and out comes Marowak. Loex going to fire off the Scorching Sands, guaranteeing massive damage or that final Protect Shield. The opponent obliges, putting up the final Protect Shield, and we see the pivot back into Lapras. Lapras very close to the Sparkling Aura. We shield at the Bone Club, fire off the Sparkling Aura. Sparkling Aura won't quite knock out. Can we Sideway farm down before the opponent Mud Slap farm us down? No, they cannot, but they're in 1 Karate Chop range. Magmar Karate Chop farms down. Before the Mud Slap registers, we Karate Chop farm down Cradilly and take that game. Another very nice win. GG's. Heading into the next battle, we lead Shadow Lapras into Dugong. This is a complete commanding lead. Our sideways hit for neutral, their Ice Shards are double resisted, and if the opponent want to full send a Drill Run, you're going to see it is pitiful damage. The opponent does fire off the Drill Run, which doesn't do much of anything. The opponent continued to stay in. Loex unleashes the Skull Bash. Skull Bash rocks Dugong into the red and buffs up our defense, meaning this next Drill Run is going to do even less than the first. If I was the opponent, I'd really consider switching out, because at this stage, they're just going to feed Lapras free energy and we've got a buffed up defense. This is not a great position for the opponent to be in. Lapras fires off the Sparkling Aura, the incoming Annihilate. Lapras going to release the second Sparkling Aura. The second Sparkling Aura very quickly forces the opponent all shields down. We pivot into Serperior, baiting out Mandibars. So in this matchup, Frenzy Plant is actually the correct move to throw. A lot of people opt for Leaf Tornado, because the only time you ever want to throw Aerial Ace is when Frenzy Plant is double resisted and Aerial Ace hits for neutral, so matchups like Talonflame and Fortress, I guess. Loex attempts to throw the next Frenzy Plant on the CMP target, the opponent not falling for any of our shenanigans, take the extra Snarl. Even Serperior has managed to get Mandibars into the yellow health range, because Frenzy Plant is just such a busted move. Loex going to send back out Lapras, the opponent pivot back out into Annihilate, and Magmar hits the field of play with that 2 to no shield advantage. Magmar just hits so insanely hard. This poor old Annihilate's going to find itself straight in and straight out. Scorching Sands cleanly picks up the 1 shot. Back out comes Mandibars. Loex still that shield to hide behind. Going to be investing it here. The opponent fire off the Aerial Ace bait. However, no bait will be saving this Mandibars' fate. Loex throws the correct 4 Karate Chops and the Fire Punch, and we take that game. And that is just about going to draw to a close today's 2-set showcase. I believe we've got a couple of bonus battles as well, but Loex went a very nice, perfect 5-0 to get us underway today. Heading into the next battle, We're going to lead a Shadow Lapras into Big Man Blastoise, rocking the sunglasses. Nice flex from the opponent. This is kind of a soft loss, because even if the opponent is running Skull Bash, much like we are, they are able to outpace. The opponent fire off the Skull Bash, Lapras withstands the damage, we bank our Skull Bash, send out Serperior, baiting out Bombardeur. So again, this thing shares the same typing as Mandibuzz, so Frenzy Plant is the correct move to throw, but this thing certainly doesn't have Mandibuzz's bulk. Holy cow, that Frenzy Plant did like half their health. Loex going to invest a Protect Shield, even these Vine Whips are starting to add up. Bombardier, little buddy, I thought you were a flyer. We can now just fire off Aerial Aces, the opponent looking for that full Sucker Punch farm down, and in kind of a mad turn of events, our Grass type is able to force both protections of his flyer in the mid-game matchup. Loex going to send out Magmar, go for the one shield and farm down. When Big Man Blastoise returns, I'm going to anticipate us trying to snipe it with our banked Skull Bash. No snipe attempts made. Blastoise going to release the Hydro Cannon, vanquishing Magmar back to its Pokeball. Lapras is going to release the Big Bash. Bash will be moving Blastoise from the field of play, but at this health range, there's literally nothing we can beat. Out comes Spirit Tomb going to Sucker Punch farm us down, and we take our first loss of the video. However, GG's that opponent, heading into the next battle. We see Shadow and Shadow Crime with Lapras into Drapion. A nice lead for us, we are going to win this in the 0 and 1 shield scenario. The opponent going to fire off the Crunch. The opponent then pivots out into a Zoom Roll, and Serperior hits the field of play. Loex going to heavily overfarm, end up throwing on CMP. Have we Vine Whipped him in a range where a Frenzy Plant cleanly picks up the one shot? Get that Azumarill off my screen. That was so satisfying. Back out comes Drapion. We're going to fire off the Aerial Ace. So of course Frenzy Plant is more energy efficient but wouldn't knock out. So I don't dislike the Aerial Ace there. Just looking to force some energy of his opponent. They fire off the Crunch. Serperior being an absolute menace. Hanging on, firing off the Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace removes Drapion from the field of play and it's Gator in the back. Loex recognising there's no need to fire off a Scorching Sands. You can just go straight Fire Punch because if the opponent tank one charge move, they're just going to get fast move beat down. The opponent overfarm, end up playing to the CMP tile. They do not win. The next Fire Punch does get called, but it's simply too little too late. Loex going to invest a Protect Shield. Recognising he can just double shield, Karate Chop farm down this Gator, and we're going to say Magmar is a for Alligator counter confirmed. You heard it here first. GG's. Heading into the next battle, we lead Shadow Lapras into, oh man, what's this thing called in English? Dash Hound, that's it. How can I call myself a Pokemon Go shoutcast? I don't even know the names of Pokemon. However, let's not get distracted. Loex going to stay in. Fire off the Sparkling Aura, forcing the opponent's first Protect Shield. This thing's likely going to fire off a Psychic Fangs, which won't be lethal, but will debuff our defense. However, Lapras with a monstrous defense stat, able to withstand the charm damage and reach Sparkling Aura number 2. The opponent actually catch on Lapras. Nice catch, buddy, but meet the Grass Snake. Serperior going to be able to outpace to the Frenzy Plant before the opponent potentially reach an Ice Beam. Frenzy Plant cleanly picks up the one shot. Back out comes Dash Hound. Again, the opponent is going to very annoyingly debuff us. The Psychic Fangs wouldn't be lethal. We don't know what's in the back, so Loex opts to keep Serperior healthy. We then overfarm, fire off the Aerial Ace from this range. Aerial Ace will be picking up the knockout, and it's all down to the opponent's final Pokemon to clean up. We get a huge amount of lag. Out comes Grumpig, but able to fire off the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant forces the opponent's final Protect Shield, and Magmar hits the field of play. I think our safest path to victory is just shield this Dynamic Punch and reach double Fire Punch. Magmar hits insanely hard. I'm more than certain that 2 Fire Punches knock out. We need this to do half the remaining health. Oh gosh, that easily does. The first Fire Punch does like 60%. The second one will be picking up the knockout, and we're going to take that game. Loex picking up a very nice win. Magmar in the closing position is scary. Heading into the next battle, we're going to lead our Shadow Lapras into Annihilate. This is nowhere near as bad as you might think. An Ice type into a fighter, but this one turn Psywave damage just adds up on Annihilate. The opponent goes straight for the Rage Fist, which is survivable. Loex is going to tank the damage and look to fire off the Sparkling Aura. The opponent likely invests a Protect Shield as they're boosted and look for the counter farm down. Loex going to concede the farm down, not to switch lock himself, and sends out Serperior. I think we're forced to shield here to prevent the opponent having any funny ideas of double shielding and fully counter farming down Serperior. Loex invest that Protect Shield, or if we go for a massive farm down, leaving very low, but with all the energy in the world. Out comes Clodsar, we fire off the Frenzy Plant, certainly putting them into Scorching Sands range, and send out Magmar. Magmar going to be able to outpace to the Scorching Sands. Does the opponent respect the damage? Boo. For those of you listening on headphones, you got away with that one. I was getting ready to boom this Clodsire. I am telling you. We quickly shot the Earthquake. The opponent then pivots out into Furret, but Furret behind an energy is not going to appreciate Magmar. The first Fire Punch rocks them below half health. Magmar able to reach the next Fire Punch. Fire Punch removes Furret from the field of play. Back out comes Clodsire. We commit to the Scorching Sands, looking to force the energy. The question now becomes, is that Frenzy Plant range? Serperior re-enters the arena, able to reach the Frenzy Plant. Is Frenzy Plant enough to knock out? Yes, it is. And we take that game. 1 HP and a dream to spare. Heading into the next battle. We lead Shadow Lapras into Malamar. This is a pretty dreadful matchup as our sideways are triple resisted as Dark double resists Psychic and Psychic also resists itself. Loex going to respect a potential superpower and dip. The opponent bait with a foul play and this now becomes very, very tricky. We end up losing CMP, but that's pretty nice as superpower isn't lethal and superpower does debuff the user's defense, meaning this Sparkle Aura will do more damage. With that in mind, the opponent invests the Protect Shield. We'll then see the Simul swap with Serperior into Drapion. Everything seems to be going wrong in this battle. The opponent fire off the Crunch. Crunch instantly puts us into the yellow health range. A few more Poison Stings and Serperior is already in the red. We fire off the Frenzy Plant. Look to reach the Aerial Ace, but then get Poison Stung farm down. Loex going to have to pull off some absolute shenanigans to have any chance of winning this battle. Magmar hits the field of play. Can we fully Karate Chop farming down before the next Aqua Tail's reached? Unfortunately, we cannot. Drapion survives deep in the red. Aqua Tail doesn't get the same type attack bonus, but almost knocks us out. We get Poison Stung farm down. Lapras gonna Psywave farm down. We get Psywave farm down in return. And that one was very hard to watch. GG's to that opponent. That's just sometimes how GBL goes, to be honest. You can't win them all. Sometimes you're just going to face a team comp that's very difficult for the team you're running to beat. Heading into bonus battle number 1. We see Shadow and Shadow Crime, Lapras into Dragonite. This is not a bad matchup, to be honest. It looks like we're hugely lagging, as we should reach the Sparkle Aura at the same time as the opponent reaches the Dragon Claw, but you can see the opponent was easily able to outpace. Then attempt to catch a Chargery onto Jellicent, and this Jellicent is immediately hard punished by Serperior. Shadow Ball does hit for neutral, quite a lot of neutral damage, but the opponent isn't ever going to be able to Hex Farm us down before we reach the back-to-back Frenzy Plants. The opponent now has a decision to make. Frenzy Plant removes Jellicent from the field of play. You can see Loex trying to reach the Aerial Ace on the return and Dragonite. Back out comes Dragonite. We reach the Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace forces the Protect Shield. The opponent is going to get a very nice Dragon Breath farm down. Lapras re-enters the arena. Fires off the Sparkle Aura, which is resisted, but Dragonite doesn't really resist anything. The opponent invests their final Protect Shield. Loex happy to invest his. The opponent then again tries to make a catch. This time onto a Lowland Sandslash. The catch attempt is unsuccessful. Poor old Sandslash straight in and straight out. Fire Punch, double super effective damage. Back out comes Dragonite. The opponent looked for the Dragon Breath farm down. Magmar says no, reaches the Fire Punch, and we take that game. That Fire Punch probably not only knocked out that Alolan Sandslash, but every Alolan Sandslash that's ever entered the Go Battle League. Heading into the next battle, awful league. Morpeko, a pretty terrifying Pokemon at the best of times. Loex farms up, tries to catch the Aura Wheel onto Serperior, where it will be resisted. But even a resisted Aura Wheel will do a solid amount of chip damage as this little mouse hits like a truck. It really annoys me that this little Wish Pikachu is really good in Go Battle League, and the actual original Pikachu is kind of hot garbage. Surely the OG should be the better one to use. This Morpeko now becoming a real problem for Loex. We now go down both Protect Shields, trying to move this Morpeko from the field of play. Loex returns fire with the Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace does force our first Protect Shield back. Loex gonna fire off the next Aerial Ace. The opponent also join us, becoming a shieldless game. The opponent then pivots out into Gator. We combo back into Lapras. We're able to outpace to the Skull Bash. Skull Bash, easy gonna pick up that one-hit KO. I'm not entirely sure what the opponent top left did there. However, we're not going to complain and we take that game. And that is just about going to wrap things up for today's Shoutcast. So today we featured a fellow content creator, Loex. His link down below. Make sure you go check him out as he is a phenomenal battler, as you can see from today's battle. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing. If you like your battles featured on my channel, a link to our battle submission form is down below. And as always, a huge thanks to everyone for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.